Hey folks, it's Nick Granville. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I thought I'd talk about the Fender Blues Junior 30th anniversary. Can you believe these things have been out for 30 years? They're everywhere. I think there's kind of two amps that sort of seem to be the standards, that probably the most popular amps around, right, in terms of tube amps, and that have to be the Blues Junior and that have to be the Hot Rod DeVille or Hot Rod Deluxe, one of those Hot Rod series, right? You see them everywhere. I've actually done a video recently where I was talking about the Blues Junior and how to get the best sound out of it, so check that one out if you haven't seen it, if you want some help with how to dial it in. But today I thought I'd kind of give some thoughts on it. So to me, it's like one of the first things I always do is take amps to a gig. You know, I plug in, I make sure it goes, I do what it does, and I took it to a gig, right? And I had this Western swing gig, and this amp looked perfect for that gig, right? Didn't look out of place at all with this fancy covering, and I had a Telecaster I just plugged straight in. No pedals, nothing on this gig. But this 30th anniversary is a little different. It's not like a standard Blues Junior. So I thought, let's discuss that today. So the first thing is you have two EL84s, 12AX7 for the preamp. You have a volume control and a master volume. So you can crank the volume control if you want to get more gain and bring the volume down. Or you can do what I often do, which is just turn the master up on full, and then I generally use the volume control for how much gain I want to get. And I use my controls on the guitar a lot. It has reverb. I'll just add a touch of reverb in Logic because I like the Logic reverb, but it has a spring reverb in it as well. And then you have treble, bass, and middle. I know they're in an odd order. Treble, middle, bass would make more sense to me, but that's how they've done it on these amps. These amps, they're pretty loud. They're loud enough to play with a drummer, but they're not loud enough to play with a really, really loud drummer. You got a heavy-hitting drummer, then you probably need two of them. Or go for a bigger amp, like a deluxe reverb or a super reverb if you've got a really heavy-hitting drummer. But for most drummers, most gigs, it's generally going to be enough volume, you know. Today all I'm using is a Cascade Fathead microphone. The settings I had and I'll have are pretty much going to stay the same, which is what I've got here. So there's a bit of kind of classic rock drive, right? But if I want it clean, turn it down. And it's a pretty clean tone, right? And I'll show you with a variety of different guitars so you can kind of get a feel for it. And by the way, the only pedal I'm using today is a Ditto looper, and that's only because I want to be able to play over something, but also too it means I can kind of repeat stuff. Yeah. Now, one of the big upgrades of this amp over the previous iterations of this one has this fancy Tolex covering, which you'll see now, and it also has this really flash handle, right? It looks the part. One of the big upgrades in this amp is the speaker. It has a Celestion creamback speaker. I think that makes a huge difference to the amp. Like, people don't talk about the speaker enough in terms of how it essentially acts like an EQ. And I think this is why this is the best Blues Junior I've ever tried. I have a limited edition version here with a, I think it's got a hemp type speaker or something like that in it. And it doesn't sound the same as this. They both sound good, but it doesn't sound the same as this. And then, of course, I've used a lot of the older Blues Juniors with the standard speaker, and they don't sound nearly as good. But, you know, if budget allows, then that's an easy upgrade you could do if you wanted to. But this has a few tweaks. It has a slightly different kind of reverb circuit. No doubt you'll hear that that's quite a sweet reverb. To me, it sounds like it's been dialed, a lot of the top has been dialed off it, which I like. I often do darker reverbs rather than really bright, springy, kind of boingy reverbs, if you will. It apparently had some sweetening done to the preamp, you know. And then, of course, there's the fat switch, which is foot switchable. I never use the foot switch, to be honest. I'm just going to leave that fat switch in, and that kind of boosts the mid-range. I find with the L84 amps, they're quite bright. There's a reason that's kind of part of the Vox sound. And so for me, it's like having that little bit of extra fatness I appreciate. And I often run the bass quite high too on this amp, as you'll see by my controls. So would I recommend it? Yes, totally. This is hands down the best Blues Junior I've ever tried. Is it worth the extra money? Well, only you can kind of say yes or no on that, right? To me, I'm happy to spend a lot more money on equipment to get a little bit of gain. But that's because I do this for a living. Someone who's doing this is just, a bedroom player, probably can't justify spending a lot more money for just a little bit more gain. For me, I'm dealing in small increments, right? Every small increment makes all the difference in the tone. You know, from down to your strings, to your pickups, to the pick, to the cables, to the pedals. Could you buy one of the more basic versions and change the speaker? Yeah, but it wouldn't have that same kind of reverb and the same kind of Tolex, you know, the covering and the handle and all that sort of stuff that makes this a pretty special little amp. So, Hey, look, I hope you like this. If you have, please like and subscribe. My name's Nick Granville, as I mentioned. I'm a professional guitar player from Wellington, New Zealand. Thanks very much. See you in the next video. Cheers. Thanks to Direct Imports for sending this out for me to check out. It will be going straight back to them. They didn't even say make a video. They just said check it out. You know, we've got a couple of amps we want to send you to check out. They know I'll take them out to gigs. They know I'm playing professionally and this is what I do, and a lot of people are going to see it. But this is my own opinion and they haven't asked me to say anything. I wouldn't do that anyway. Anyone who tries to give me a script, I'm not even going to touch their product. It's my words, my thoughts, it's going back to them afterwards. So take for that what you will.